Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Game Vortex where I'm doing the movie reviews. I apologize for the settings because I'm traveling right now. I have to stay in a factory slash house, old house place. So I apologize for all this stuff, the Romeo and Juliet posters and stuff like this. So never mind that. I'm here to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that I've just seen today with my daughter. It came out in Thailand I think 2 or 3 days ago. A bit ahead of what you get in the US, I think. If I'm not mistaken, there's still a couple of days until the movie comes out in the US. So I just wanted to give you an honest review without spoiling any story-driven content from the movie, just to let you know what I think of the movie. Now, before I begin, obviously, I want to tell you about my exposure to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not a comic book nerd. I'm not reading comics. I've never read comics. I did read manga and things like that, but when it comes to Marvel and DC content, I consumed them when I was a kid by watching the TV shows and basically the cartoons that they release on Fox Kids and so on and so forth, you know, Cartoon Network and stuff, Toonami. So, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the big characters, but I've never heard about Guardians of the Galaxy until I watched the movie The Guardian Galaxy 1, like part 1. And I was actually in a hospital that time, my private hospital, so my family stayed with me, my wife, kids. So they just went out and bought the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was a rip copy, so because at that time it just came out in the cinemas, and we watched it, and everybody loved it. Like nobody knew anything about them, but the story was great. The humor was just amazing. It was one of those movies that just drops on you, and you're like, "Damn, this is really good." And this set the bar for me is very high for the movie in terms of the second part. But also, what is important is that Marvel has delivered, unlike DC, very, very stellar quality movies over the time. But then, what I can see right now from watching this movie and also the Iron Fist on the Netflix, I think maybe they've reached their plateau back then and it's starting to drop right now because the Iron Fist was not good. I mean, at least not for me. And with the Guardians of the Galaxy, we'll talk about it now. So I'm not going to spoil anything for you in terms of the story, anything like that. So the Guardians are back. As usual, there is some kind of a tension between them. There's arguments and stuff like that. It seems like they've got over that in the first part, but the same thing comes back again in the second part. So it's a bit complicated, I would say, in that sense. But movie in general, I'll give you just a quick few tidbits that I picked up from the movie. Now, character development, pacing of this and the story itself, to see if it's good or not good, what you guys might think. So when I watched this part 1 with my daughter, she was just over the moon. She loved it, the raccoon, right? And then also the Groot and the rest of the characters. And we just watched it in one sitting, and she was like, she was happy. She actually wanted to watch it again, and we did watch it again once it came out in a decent quality on the Blu-ray. But then when we got into watching Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, she went with me, so we sat there together and we watched the movie. And then, like, at some point during the movie, she asked me, like, is it gonna finish soon? Which means that she probably didn't like it, or she was, like, kind of meh about it. And to be honest, that at some point before that, before she actually addressed me, like, asked me this question, I was like, feels long, this movie feels long, like, is it gonna end soon or something like that? And when I sense something like that, that means there's a couple of problems. There's a problem either with the story or with the pacing. But in this movie, I can tell you that there was a story with both. But if I have to split them, I'd say the story is good. It's not great, but it's good. It's good enough for this kind of a movie. Pacing, though, on the other hand, was a little bit off. The movie felt, I mean, I know the story goes in a way that some of the characters get separated and things like that for whatever reason, you know, like they come up, and by the end of the movie, I think that wasn't a good enough reason to separate the characters. I think it would have been more fun if they actually all went together to their own adventure. And the pacing felt off. Like, you start to wonder if this movie is dragging out, it's going long and long. You get this bits of action, and in the middle there's going to be some kind of a, like, something that you're just watching, you're like, okay, yeah, I got this, yeah, okay. Like, it doesn't fulfill this kind of a part for me. Is that I actually wanted to know more about the characters, drive more into their history or motivations or maybe their fears and so on and so forth. And it's only the case for the two characters in this movie. And only for the two characters. I'm not going to tell you who. Like, you're going to find out more about their fears and the things that they like or don't like for about two one very important character, another one not important now for sure. But what I'm telling you is that even that part, the segment, is just only a couple of minutes long, like 2-3 minutes. That's it. That's about it. That's about it, and that's a shame because I wanted to explore more of the characters' development and their history and the background and stuff. When it comes to you probably have seen the trailers from the Star-Lord, right? The person shows up who claims is the father. We find out. To be honest, I wanted to know who is he and all that stuff, and I found out who is he, but it was just like that. It was like this, like this, like this, like this. It's served up in pieces, which got me a bit frustrated. It was like, why would you do that? Like, we found out about his dad, well, on the surface, yeah, on the surface. And then we found out pretty much nothing about Star-Lord himself. Like, it's the same thing as you've seen in the first part, retold from a different person's perspective. We've just literally a couple of minutes of dialogue touching that thing, but nothing else is explored about Star-Lord and you see his potential, but it's so vague and limited, and it's a shame. It's a shame for me to be telling you that, to be honest, because I was looking up a lot to this movie, but I'm not saying this movie is bad, obviously. Movie is not bad. I mean, the action is still pretty nice. It's superb. I know this is a CG heavy movie, but I think that maybe that the story wasn't deep enough. They decided to focus so much on the CG that at some point you're like watching it and you're like, okay, like, yeah, that looks alright. Yeah, that looks alright. Yeah, I pretty much expect that from this movie. I apologize, there's a cat meowing outside. So it's a little bit frustrating for me, to be honest. I was expecting a little bit more from this movie. Not a little bit more, a lot more, to be honest. There are different reviews out right now. If you look at the Metacritic, for example, you look at the average Metacritic score right now stands at 60 something. I would give it a bit. I mean, I would give it more than that, and I'll tell you my verdict in a bit. But what is like, there's a couple of characters there, like Groot, right? He was quite an interesting and funny character back in the series, and then you've seen at the end of the movie he became a small guy, right? And you've seen him in trailers. I mean, he stays like that pretty much throughout the whole movie. But they kind of wasted him. It's like they had him there just for the reason to make the movie appeal more cute, a bit more funny, a bit more for the kids, maybe. I mean, that's what it seems like. He had his moments, comedic moments, but other than that, there was no purpose of him being there, which is a shame because it's one of those iconic characters in their story that they could have probably developed more, actually give him a bigger purpose. Apologize, I'm sweating like a cunt here because it's really, really hot, and I don't want to switch on the fan because that will make an extra noise. I'm doing this in the basic setup on my phone. So yeah, my biggest problems is the pacing and the story, the character development, and I think that's about it. I mean, a bit way too heavy on the CG, which is fine, but at the same time, the first movie kind of like carried you on one breath throughout the movie, and you were just laughing from scene to scene to scene because everything was so great and the chemistry was mixed. But here, everybody's kind of feels disjointed. They pursue their own interests, but at the same time, nobody really explains why they're doing this and like what are they accomplished. Like it's like when you've seen the first movie as how they started and how they ended. You've seen that journey and you understand why they ended up the way they are. In this movie, everybody pursues their interest, and then at the end, it still feels as it did in the beginning of the movie, just as disjointed, as I might say. And it's a shame for me. So my verdict in general for you, I'm not spoiling anything about that, but I'll give you a comparison. I went to see the Fast and Furious 2 weeks ago or something like that, whenever it was released here in Thailand. I went to see Fast and Furious 8 by myself. I mean, I'm a big fan of those kind of movies, but it's not because I'm a big fan of Vin Diesel or anything like that. No, but I wanted to see how they're gonna follow up on part 7, right? And when I walked out of that cinema, they smashed the box office. They took more money than the Star Wars Episode 7 in the first weekend. When I walked out of this movie, I was like, it felt the same. Like, I was watching the movie, I was like, okay, yeah, the time's running, like, it feels kind of long already, so I knew something was not like, and I was like, I should have waited for the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2 instead of watching this, because I might not get a chance to see it because I have two kids and one is very, very young, only 6 months. So I was like, shit, I shouldn't have wasted this time watching this, because it was all right. It filled me up, but it wasn't something that I was like, wow, like Part 7, I really liked it. And the Guardians felt to me exactly the same. I walked out, I was like, shit, that's 2 movies in a row, and I'm thinking like, was it worth really? Like, it was worth it, definitely. And I cannot compare the 2 movies because they are very different, but in terms of entertainment that they provide, because you go to see Fast and Furious movies for entertainment, Guardians of the Galaxy for a story maybe, and so on and so forth, but like, they are about on the same level for me, which is a bit weird. And I knew before I was going in there, because Marvel said that there's going to be 4 or 5 videos at the end, post-credit scenes, and I always love to see those because they give away something very big for the upcoming movies. Nothing here. Nothing here. I mean, there were scenes after the credits, a couple of seconds, 10, 15 seconds each, but they didn't talk about anything apart from the movie that you actually have seen. It was just a comedic scenes, and that's about it. Like, I was expecting, because they confirmed that the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be in Infinity War. I thought they're going to actually like do something about Thor Ragnarok, or maybe the Infinity War, but they kind of wasted opportunity on just cracking a few more jokes into the movie, which was fine, but you could have easily put that on YouTube, or easily put that on in the actual movie. So if you're a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy, yes, go and see this movie for sure, of course. I mean, if you're a fan, I'm a fan of something, I'm going to go and see it no matter what anyone says. And I want to tell you that my opinion is strictly my opinion. I try to be just giving you an outlook of what I think as a person who watched the first one, never knew anything about Guardians of the Galaxy before. So if you're not a fan of this series, but you've seen the first one and you liked it, go and see it still, because there isn't anything else, to be honest, in the cinema right now. I mean, there's a lot of big movies coming out this year, the Transformers, okay, yeah, Michael Bay again, not looking forward to that. Then you have, obviously, the Wonder Woman, right, the Aliens, all this stuff, and obviously the Star Wars Episode 8. So a lot to look forward to this year, but in general, what I want to tell you is that if you just an average person who watched the Guardians of the Galaxy, if you have time, go and see it. If not, still try to go and see it. So my verdict, if I had to give you a solid rating, and about the Metacritic thing, I didn't look it up until after I watched the movie. I don't agree with the average score right now, but I would give you a solid 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Don't remember, 7 out of 10 is not bad. It's actually good. It's good, but not great and not perfect, certainly. So if the first movie, I'll probably give it a 9-ish. This one would be a 7, and even with 7, I kind of a little bit struggled to find the things to raise it up to that bar. I mean, they had a few good appearances from Sylvester Stallone and obviously the guy who plays the father of Star-Lord. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much everything I had to say. So when you watch this movie, please let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this movie? How do you see it? Try to be as objective. Don't if you're a fanboy of something, it's very easy to go and criticize someone as something who doesn't agree with your view, but try to see it as objective, because I love all those movies. I loved all those movies. And I'm not afraid to say something that I think is not great, right, or not as good. Was it as funny as the first one? No. Was it as on the same level? No. Story, was it better than the first one? No. Was it on the same level? No, but very close, I would say. So, but there's a lot of holes and things that you have to discover for yourself. So yeah, thank you again for supporting me, and please subscribe to this channel. There's a button over there, and there's another button over there, will be hopefully on this video. Leave the comments below, share the video if you like, and I'll see you everybody on the next episode of Game Vortex.